What is up, everybody? It's Kelpsy, and today we are talking about Still Wakes the Deep. This is a story driven horror game that is all about getting to the end and not being caught by the horrors that are trying to track you and your other oil rig workers down. And it is a story driven game, which means there's not a lot of there's no combat. Actually, there's not a lot of skill checks. There are a few where you jump from ledges and you have to make your way through this maze like oil rig in hopes of being able to return home. So it's as I said, it's a newer game. It is very heavy on trying to be a tension building horror game rather than a jump scare horror game, which I thoroughly enjoy. But I'm not going to give out any big spoilers, so don't worry about that. But here are a couple points I'd like to talk about on this game to give you an insight on how I feel about it and if it's worth getting into. First, we're going to start with the visuals. So this game is very heavy on like an eldritch horror type of game. You could tell that just by the title and the colors of the title. I knew that as soon as I seen it going in. A lot of the descriptors call it that, and I will say it is a different take on that kind of horror, but it is definitely in that kind of horror genre. There is a fair amount of, I'll call it gore, but that's not really gore. Like, you see bodies, there are malformed eldritch monsters, but there's not a lot of actual like gore. Most of it is off screen. And even if you fail and you die to one of the monsters, there's not some crazy jump scare gory ending. It is a different, unique take on the ending. So, well, before you respawn. So I enjoy that because I think that games that lean too into the visual horror, like goriness, like the Outlast games, they kind of take me out of it because I get it. You're trying to push the envelope. It doesn't do anything for me after a few minutes. But the visuals are great in this game. The graphics are amazing. Of course, since this is a more visual story driven game, so of course the graphics are good. And with that, the movements are good. You feel like someone who is on this oil rig just trying to get off. So it's good. It's very fluid. It all works well together. There was only maybe one or two animations that didn't look great, but they still didn't look bad. So I will definitely say the visuals of this game are good. As for the story is amazing. The story, I would read it if it was a book. It is a great story. It does lean itself into being a little not repetitive, but if you're somebody like me who plays a lot of MMOs, it kind of starts to feel like the story is just go and get this kind of thing to prolong it, but it's not really, because you always get put to new areas and it lets you touch on almost every part of this rig while you're going through it. So I'll say the story is really well done. Every time you interact with an NPC, the story that they give and the story building and all of it building more tension and more like despair does a really good job. But I will say there are a few parts of the story that I found a little hacky where I was kind of taken out of it. Now, for the scares of it. For the scares, I'll say that I don't think that any of it was too scary at all for me. It doesn't really rely on jump scares. It more relies on things as tension building scares. There are a few chases. There's several chases. There's several areas where you have to like sneak by a monster. The audio that you get while sneaking by the monsters are good. The voice acting in this game is very good in the aspects of leaning into the horror and the tension building and the dread that you're supposed to be feeling. So all of that does really well to build this up. But as I said, there's not very many jump scares, and that's what I really enjoyed about the game. I find jump scares to be something a lot of games lean too much into, and fabricated fear to be something new games lean too much into. Things like when they add in the heartbeat to try to make your heart beat faster, or they add in manufactured anxiety. I don't think that doesn't get me going, and that doesn't freak me out. So whenever there's games that put the heartbeat in, it's more annoying to me than beneficial. So the fact that this game doesn't rely on that kind of mechanic, and it still really built up the tension to me, I really enjoyed. So I'll say that the scariness of the game had me feeling like not on edge, but a bit on edge after I got done playing it. I enjoyed it. This is my least favorite part of the game, and this is the length. This is not a long game. This game took me from the very beginning to completely finishing it under 4 hours. I watched every cutscene. I didn't skip any dialogues. I tried to interact with everything I could. I think I got a majority of the achievements on the first playthrough. I basically did everything in the game I wanted to do, and I left feeling satisfied and happy. But I did finish this game in its entirety in a singular sitting in under 4 hours. And so the length is a little iffy to me because of the price. And that's the last point I always like to talk about on these reviews, and it's that this game is $34.99 on Steam and every other platform. It is on Game Pass, which is how I played it. Which is why I'll say, if you want to play it and you have access to Game Pass on PC or Xbox, it is a for sure you should play it. And it's even worth getting the Game Pass to play it, because I loved this game. I just didn't exactly like the price point. $35 to me should be a full-length game. It should take me several sittings to play it. It should be good. It should be like a $35 book, where it's not a one sitting, one and done, put it on the shelf. And without that being the case, I can't really recommend it at a full price point, but it is completely worth it on the Game Pass price point, and that still supports the developers. It still supports the lobby that made it. It still supports all of it. It's in a different way, and $35 is a lot of money these days to put towards something you're gonna complete in one sitting. But other than that, I'll say this game is a great game. I enjoyed almost all of it. Some of the quests, because there's just the one main storyline. Some of the requests that the NPCs give you were a little monotonous. But overall, with the visuals and the voice acting and the world building, I'm going to say this game is a good game in the horror genre. And I'd give it a 7.1. It's a good game that if it's on sale or if you have the Game Pass, you should definitely try it out. But for $35, I'm not going to recommend it to anybody because, again, that there's just not enough game for me personally. If you've got a lot of money and you are obsessed with the Eldritch horror story-driven games, this is definitely the game for you. But if you're like me, where you like to do things the cheapest way possible, even if you do love the Eldritch horror story genre, or even just Eldritch horror, or just horror, this is a game that checks all those boxes. It's a good game. It's just a little bit too pricey for what you get for my tasting. Let me know if you guys have played the game and you disagree or you agree. Let me know if you have been thinking about playing the game. As you've seen, I've put clips in the game and I've used as little spoilers as I can, with also giving you guys a couple snippets of what the game looks like going through it. And let me know what you think. As always, thanks for the support. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.